Hey everyone, we are about to get started. We have about 6 minutes before we start our workshop. So as you're coming in, you will see that there is a questionnaire, a poll on how you feel how comfortable do you feel with workflows. Go ahead and make sure that you add your votes. You can chat with me, ask me questions. I also have a Q&A. I'll stop and take questions here and there, and then we'll have a session at the very end for questions. So I'm very excited about this evening. I hope you are too. Let's see, people are starting to come in. This is very exciting. And on the questionnaire, we have on a scale of 1 to 5, how comfortable do you feel with Dubsado workflows? We are at a 3, 4, and 5, which is 3, which is meh. I could do better. 4, which is eek, they're kind of overwhelming, and 5, I can't even. So I hope that at the end of this workshop that we're going to have a little bit more of the 2s and 1s, but I'm very excited to get started. And as you're coming in, go ahead and let me know in the chat where you're coming in from. I am in the Boston area. I'm about an hour outside of Boston, probably closer to Worcester. Don't ask me how to spell it. It has a lot of R's when you say it and not enough R's when you spell it. So yes, I am in the cold. It actually was beautiful out today. It was in the 50s. So tell me in the chat where you're from and tell me about how today was for you. I heard there was some snow this week for some people in Idaho. So yeah, very excited. Interesting, you know. Hi, Sarah. I'm so glad you're on tonight. I know where you live. I probably know exactly where you live. Madeline, you're just outside from DC. I have relatives in Rockville, Maryland. Wow, we have Rachel from Australia, and Rebecca is from Alabama, and it's rainy and mid-70s. Celeste, you're just up north in New Hampshire. Lori, you're from Dayton, Ohio, and rain's coming in, not fun, and snow showers still. I don't understand this weather at all. Oh, Madeline, you're going to Rockville tomorrow? How fun. I hope it does stay nice. And Cynthia, you're from coastal Virginia. It's beautiful. Britt, you're from Northern California. That's awesome. I'm actually from Southern California originally. Daniel from Cincinnati. I'm so excited. We have people from Australia and both coasts. It's very cool. And from central United States as well. Wow. Hi, Debbie from New York. I'm very excited you're on tonight. I know you weren't sure if you could make it, so it's very cool that you made it. We're going to give a few more minutes. Hi, Dan. I remember you. You're in Northern Virginia. How nice. It's beautiful there. I have family actually from West Virginia, of all places. My mom's entire family is from West Virginia. And Stephanie is from Fort Lauderdale. Stephanie, how are you? Do you have a baby with you this time? Only on Fridays. Awesome. Well, we have about 2 more minutes, so make sure that as you come in to take the poll. And if you have questions, go ahead and drop them in the Q&A. I'm not sure where they show up on your controls, but you can definitely, if you can't find the Q&A, you can go ahead and ask them in the chat, and I will try to pick them up as we go. I am so excited to go through the new workflows and workflows in general. So Debbie, I'm actually going to show you Dubsado on my end, so you can follow along, so you can open it up, you can try things. That'd be a great idea. And just make sure that you're taking notes too, because there's just so much going on and there's so many things to think about. What I really want this to be is for you to get some ideas and some juices flowing on how the workflows work and all the cool things that you can do. And I hope that even if you have all of your workflows in place, If you're in that 2 level that you feel pretty good, maybe hopefully you can walk away with a couple, 1 or 2 new ideas for your workflows. I know I talked a little bit on my Facebook Live about client call script and how the new workflow actions help you out. So I'll show you a little bit about that today or tonight. Wow, it's 8:30 already. So I think without further ado, yes, Lori, I did get your question earlier, and I will try to talk through it with you. I might have to check with you on the back end. It might be something with your setup directly, or if there's some kind of other issue going on, we could talk about that. Hi, Jesse, your audio is not on. I want to make sure that there's not a lot of noise in the background. But hi from Ontario. Is that Ontario, Canada, or Ontario, California? I used to live near Ontario, California, so I'm always interested to know if anybody came from Ontario, California. So let's see. Oh, very cool. Ontario, Canada. It's beautiful up there. I've never been, but I've heard it's beautiful. Give another minute just to get everybody on because it's just now 8:30. We actually have somebody who says they're at a number 1. I got them down. I'd love to know who that person was. Tell me your name. Tell me who is, on a scale of 1 to 5, you feel like you are awesome. I'd like to know who the rock star in the group is. All right, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. If you are the rock star who is at a scale of 1 to 5 at number 1, go ahead and drop your name in chat. Let me know that you feel like a rock star. And yes, we are going to get started. So welcome everyone to the Dubsado Workflow Workshop. We are going to talk a little bit about getting ready for building workflows, and then we're going to actually do it live in my demo account so you can kind of see how pieces come together, how all the actions work, and I will try to answer questions as they come and at the very end as well. So I hope that if you have questions, try to go ahead and put them in the Q&A. And yeah, let's get started. Okay. First, my controls are hidden. So I want to tell you a little bit about me. My name is Jen Rudd. If you don't know, you're just excited to see Workflow Workshop. Hi, Wendy. How are you? So I'm glad you're awesome. So today, my name is Jen Rudd. I am Inspired Growth Strategist, which is a fancy way of saying that I like to figure out ways to make you and your business grow. I have one hand up already. Where'd it go? Okay, I think we're okay. I'm a little distracted, as you can see. Okay, so my name is Jen Rudd. I am the small business, I help small business owners organize, systemize, and grow their business. I've been really into client experience, marketing, and team management. I have been in business for 6.5 years. July will be 7 years. Oh my gosh, I feel so old. I grew up in a family business, and it was actually 4 generations of my family were in the same business. And it was very exciting growing up to see my grandfather, his son-in-law, my great-grandfather, my grandfather, who was my great-grandfather's son-in-law, my father and my uncle all in the same business. And at times, my cousin and myself also worked for the business, mostly in the administrative and gopher type positions. I was definitely a gopher. But the biggest thing that happened with my family's business is that when I graduated college with my shiny new bachelor's in business, the business actually folded. And that was such a turning point for me, because I realized that without having the proper systems and structure in place, the businesses just don't last. My great grandfather and my grandfather started the business in the 70s, and it closed in 2004. And that was a huge problem for me to see, the demise of a business. And that was basically from mismanagement, not having systems in place and not having a structure. And I learned the biggest lesson from that is that business is not a fly by the seat of your pants kind of gig. It is not sustainable to just kind of show up and do things every day. So this is why I'm really excited about systems and really excited about, managing your business and really being structured. Because at the end of the day, that's the only way you're going to have a business that's sustainable, long-term, and that can support, generations of your family. As I mentioned, I have a bachelor's in business from Whittier College. If you have not heard of Whittier, it is some notable alumni are Richard Nixon, Roger Lodge, and Jeff Stoltz. And if you don't know who Jeff Stoltz is, it's okay. He's been famous for about 5 minutes, but my alumni association is all over him. Before starting my own business almost 7 years ago, I spent 10 years in corporate America. Please do not add those numbers together. I am also a certified project management professional, and I am obsessed with making businesses run smoothly. Okay, let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. The agenda for today is why we are here, which is we are here for Dubsado workflows, which are very exciting. And we'll talk a little bit about workflows, creating your workflow wish list, what needs to be in place before you build those workflows, some use cases, and then we'll answer some questions. And if you stick around to the very, very, very end, I have a bonus video, which is a full walkthrough of how to do an online registration in Dubsado, which is super cool. If you have a course that you're trying to have people register for, if you're trying to have people go through a lead capture, pay, sign a proposal and a contract, and pay an invoice before they get into any program, you can get the video, which is an online registration workflow video. So it's very exciting. It's one of my favorite things to do. That's how I do my consulting hours in Dubsado. So I will show you actually how I have it set up in my own Dubsado system if you stick around for that bonus video, okay? Madeline, you're excited? I am too. I love that video. Okay. So let's talk about why we're here. Dubsado is awesome. You are here because you are ready to unleash the power of automation in your business, or even if you've already automated your business, you're looking for other ways to make it even better. So this is why you're here today. And you always know that your workflows can be better if you just take some time and really think about the long-term goals for your business, the long-term ways that you can manage your clients, and try to get that as tight as possible so you can spend less time managing your clients and all that administrative portion of your business and focus on the fun stuff, which is doing stuff with or for your clients. Are we all ready for this? Okay. So first, you want to prepare yourself for your workflows. You cannot build a workflow without all the other pieces in place. You cannot open Dubsado today at day one and expect to build a workflow. You need to have all the pieces in place, okay? So first, before you get started, I always say to map out your workflows, which means you want to draw out exactly what your clients or leads will see, do, or react with you within Dubsado. You also need to figure out generally what happens when. So if you want someone to get a brochure as soon as they fill in the lead capture, you need to think about, okay, you need to have a lead capture and then an email to send a brochure, and then what happens after they get that brochure. So really draw out a map, whether you draw it on a piece of paper, whether you use the cool modeling tools that Google Docs has, or whatever, I also like whiteboards. Those are my favorite things to use to kind of start out with workflows and really map that out. And then think about what your wish list is. I call it your wish list because what you may want to happen may not exactly happen how you want it to happen. You always want to think about the end goal and not forcing Dubsado or any other program to do exactly what you want it to do in exactly the order that you want it to happen. Okay. So just be really open about what your wish list is, and then try to figure out ways to make that wish list happen. Okay. Any questions about workflow mapping type things before we move on? Okay. Next piece. You want to build your templates. Here's the order I like to do templates in. Everyone has their own kind of favorite thing to do, but I like to make sure that all of the templates are in place before I can build workflows, because you can't actually workflow anything unless it's built. So here's the order that I like to have. First, you want to start with your tax items. If you have sales tax in your state on any of the items that you sell, any of the services that you sell, if you have some combination of tax and non-tax, first you have to enter those in Dubsado, and then you have to figure out what gets taxed and what doesn't, because you will have to create a package for everything that has tax or no tax. So if you, for example, sell photos and they are not taxed as long as they're a service, but once you deliver anything besides a digital file, it becomes a sales tax item, you would need to create a package for sales tax and for non-sales tax, all that fun stuff. So when you're thinking about packages, what you think may have only 2 or 3 service lines in your business might actually be 6 or 12 or 18. So really think about those packages and really lay out, based on tax items, what is packages. Next, you want to figure out what your payment schedules are. Once you create your payment schedules, it's much easier to build proposals and everything else. So think about what your clients, how you're going to break up your payments for your clients, and at what times in their services they are going to make payments. Next, you want to build your proposals, because now you have all your packages and payment schedules in place. So you can build your proposals and make them pretty based on all those packages and all those fun things. Next, you can build your questionnaires and your contracts and your sub-agreements. But as you can see, to build those proposals, you have to build 3 other things first, or 2 other things if you don't have sales tax. So as you can see, you want to map everything out, and then you want to create your templates. So basically, you have to set up all of the other pieces of Dubsado before you can build your workflows. So basically, again, you have to build everything else before you build your workflows. Okay? Now, the last piece is the canned emails. Remember that workflow flowchart that you created, either a spreadsheet, mind mapping, whatever it looks like? You have to have emails for any piece of the workflow that you want to have happen that goes to a client. It needs to be served with an email. So always make sure that you have emails for every action point in Dubsado that gets sent to the client, and you have to interact with the client. So things that you would want to use are like inquiry responses, send proposal, contract completes, onboarding emails, completion emails, follow-up emails, all those things. You want to have as many canned emails in your Dubsado as possible. It will make your life so much easier. And it will also make it easier to build a workflow without having to go back and go to a different screen. Okay? So to recap, we had to create a workflow flowchart. We had to create all the templates, and we had to create all the canned emails. And now we are ready to build workflows. Okay? Anyone have any questions about the pieces before you build a workflow in terms of what needs to be set up or templates or anything like that? I don't want to deep dive too much into actually building templates, but just understanding that all those pieces need to be ready to go before you can get started. Okay, so Allison says, so far so good. All right, so I went through, and let me close this because not what I want to do. Okay, so the first thing I did was I created my workflow flowchart, super simple on spreadsheets. You know, I have a contact form, and what happens when a new lead comes in, information that's gathered, I can fill in the lead capture myself, or I can have somebody fill in through a website. And then they're going to get the automatic canned email with a reply, which is a brochure and a link to schedule a call with me. And then that's going to go out automatically as soon as the lead capture is filled out. Next, we have a questionnaire. We have a to-do, which is a reminder to follow up with the lead after 2 days, and that comes directly to me. And then I have a new questionnaire, which I fill out during the session, and this is what I would call the client call script. And then once they're ready to book, I can send them their proposal, contract, and invoice. I would now, since there's some new cool things to do in Dubsado, I would probably add a hold or a pause. Wait until after call with me. Okay, so this is a workflow flowchart, kind of just very basically laying out what needs to happen or what I want to happen in Dubsado. I talk about what the actions are and then what components I need. So I need a lead capture. I would need a canned email, a brochure, and a link to my scheduler. I would do a to-do here. I would do a call script, which is a questionnaire. I don't need to send a canned email because I can actually apply it to a lead without them seeing it, without them getting emailed. And then I want to build a pause in until they are ready to move forward. And then I'm going to send a proposal, contract, and invoice, either manually or automatically after we have a call. So I need a proposal, a contract, an invoice. I need to have the packages made. If I need to have sales tax, I'm going to have sales tax made. And then I'm also going to have a canned email. So I would do this for all the different ways that I work with the client. I would have an initial inquiry. I could have multiple initial inquiries. Sarah, I know you have different sessions, so you would have a different inquiry flow chart for each one. So one would have, if it's a full session or a mini session or a portrait, or a headshot, things like that for photographers, you would have different brochures that you send out based on the different types of inquiry that you're getting. And then once they move forward with working with you, then they can have an onboarding process with you, and we'll move forward. Actually, they would move forward with whatever package they're working with you for. If there's, if it's a wedding, you would have many different steps. If it's just a photo session, it would be one step, things like that. So basically, I like to break up my workflows into two different types of workflows: the initial inquiry workflows and then the actual work in process workflows, which is projects once you're working with the client. And the reason why I do that is because sometimes clients may come to you through a lead capture and say that they want service A, but after talking to them, they really want service B, or they need service C, or they need some other combination of services. So unless it's a very simple, straightforward work with them, you're going to give them a proposal as soon as they fill in a lead capture, and then send some information and then have a session with them and then close out. I would definitely break up your workflows into multiple workflows, which is lead and then work in process. Okay. Any questions so far? So Madeline, in general, you recommend having one workflow available per service. Yes, generally, I would have one workflow per service, and I might have multiple workflows depending on, if you're a wedding photographer, for example, you would have the workflow for the actual wedding portraiture, and then you would have a second workflow just for engagement portraiture. If you also wanted to add a editing workflow afterwards, because one client only gets digitals, one client gets digitals and has an in-person session, or somebody gets a digital in-person session and then they also have an album. The album may be a different workflow altogether. So it really depends on your business, and that's why it's very difficult to be like, this is exactly what you're going to get. So yes, it's definitely really up to you, but I do like having to break it down between different workflows. Chloe asked, will there be a replay? Yes, there will be a replay. It should go out tomorrow. Sarah, the pause is actually built into a workflow. So that means that if you want the workflow to stop and not move forward until you're ready to pick back up, that's where you build the pause in. And then Debbie, if you are a wedding planner with 3 different services, how many workflows would you suggest? So I would have the initial inquiry workflow, which is, hey, thanks for getting your, thanks for your information. I am available for your date. Here's my brochure. Here's, let's get on a call and let's schedule your in-person meeting. Then you can have that second workflow, which would be service A, which is, maybe your day of coordination. Service B would be your mini package, your mid package, and then your full service package would be a workflow 3. So workflow 4. So I would say 4 workflows. You might want to have 3 different inquiry workflows if a client knows exactly what they want. You might even have a workflow which is, I'm not sure what I want. Let's have that conversation. So you might have 4 inquiry workflows. You might have 3 service workflows. And then the customization for the, let's see, so I answered Chloe. I answered Sarah, done, and Louis, Debbie. Okay, so Wendy asked, the customization of services comes from the proposal rather than the workflow. So yes, so basically when you're talking to a client and you're deciding what services they're working with, you can make that the point at the proposal. Sometimes people actually stop the first initial workflow of the contact workflow and make a second workflow, which is the initiation of that proposal, contract, and invoice, starting with workflow number 2. So yes, in this case, Wendy, I would definitely say using a proposal to on the second piece of the second workflow, if that makes sense. Okay. Jesse asked, how do you unpause the workflow? You actually do it manually, and you can actually unpause it now. So we'll go through that whole workflow process right now. So talking about the workflows, we're gonna go ahead and cut this. Copy, paste. So we'll use Wendy's example of using the workflow, the proposal as the new workflow. And then the pause workflow actually comes in the workflow itself, or you can manually do it. So we are going to go ahead and build this first initial inquiry workflow. So I have my brochure, which is right here, my brochure. The fancy brochure. And then also in my workflow, I said that I need to have a link to my scheduler. I need to have an email for the first contact with the client. And then I also want to have a questionnaire that I fill out while I'm talking with the client. And Dan asked, do I already have sample workflow templates already built out? Yes, in my DIY store on my website, I do have workflows built out already that you can use as boilerplate to create your own workflows. Okay. So the first action is I want to send in a form because I built a brochure within Dubsado as a form. So I want to send a form. Carolina, yes, the brochure is a PDF I uploaded. What I did was I used Publitas to create a brochure. And then I embedded it into a Dubsado form. You can also convert a PDF into a JPEG and then add it as an individual image. So here I have, this is code that I built in using the code block. And then you can also just add images. So if you have your PDF and you just convert it into images, into individual images, you can add those as the brochure. Okay. And then let's see. So I built the template, and then I have a canned email, which is here. And then I have a questionnaire. And then I also numbered my emails for the first 5 kind of emails that I send through Dubsado. So they're easier to find when I'm building workflows and when I'm sending emails on the fly. Okay, so then I go into workflow, inquiry workflow. So I'm gonna add an action, which is a send a form. And I'm gonna send the form 0 hours after the workflow started. Because this is applied to a lead capture, I want it to happen as soon as workflow started, because as soon as someone has filled in the lead capture and hit submit, it starts the workflow. Okay, I want to send a form because I'm going to send that brochure, and I want to send an email and apply to portal. Right now the client doesn't have a portal, so I would just read this piece. The lead wouldn't have a portal, so I would just look at this where it says send email. Apply to portal means that you apply to the client's dashboard and that you send it to them in their portal, but you don't send an email. And then apply to job only means that you apply it to the job, but the client doesn't see it automatically. You would have to send it to them manually. So I'm going to add the form, which is my brochure. And then the canned response is going to be that inquiry response. And then here I have that form link, which is the form that I'm attaching, which is my brochure. I'm telling it exactly where to go in this email by using the smart field, which is the form link. I have all my emails already written out, so I can just go ahead and drop them on here. So as you can see, if you have all the pieces built already, it's very simple to move forward with the workflows and build them as you go on the fly. Okay, now I'm going to add my next action was to do a to-do, which is to remind me to follow up with a lead after 2 days. So I'm going to create a to-do. And then I'm not going to assign it to anybody. And then I always put in here the full name of the client, so I know who the person is when they come into my dashboard. And then I'm going to say follow up with them regarding service. And then I'm going to have this happen 2 days after all previous actions are complete. The previous action being the send the form. I can also send an email reminder to myself. And then if I assign a user, they'll also get an email. So if I have it assigned to one of my team members, they'll get it, and then it'll also be a to-do on the dashboard. Okay. The next piece is I'm going to add that questionnaire, which is a client call script. So if I want to have, I have a call script that I built in here, which I just took from a template. But basically, it's stuff that you want to make sure that you hit while you're talking to a client, and make sure that you ask all the questions that you're supposed to ask, and that you've gotten all the information that you want to gather from them, so that you can either build your proposal or just take notes on them, or just any of other pieces to make sure that you're following your sales process. So I create that call script. What I'm going to do now is, in that workflow I'm building, I'm going to add that form to the job only, which means it's going to put it in the job. I'm going to be able to go into the job dashboard, the lead or the job dashboard, and look at it and fill it out, but I'm not going to send it to the client. So I'm applying it to the job only. And I'm going to refresh my page. So while I'm refreshing my page, Madeline asks, question about applying form to a portal. Proposal can be viewed outside of a portal automatically. After the proposal is viewed, invoice created and invoice paid, will the proposal already be applied to the portal automatically, even though the client viewed it before having a portal? Yes. Once it's sent to a client, it automatically shows up in their portal. So anything that is sent either manually into the portal, or if it is sent via email, it is also sent to the client and then therefore marked sent and pushed to that portal. Okay, Megan said, will the client see the form if it's added to job only? No, they will not. And then Madeline said, so literally anything that's sent will be visible to the client whether or not the portal was activated at the time. Yes. So as long as it's been sent, it will be in the portal. If it's not sent, it will not be in the portal. So that's what the differentiation is, so that you can use this client call script. But you don't have to do two things. Once you send it to a client, you don't have to do anything else. It automatically shows up in their portal. I hope that better answers your question. So I'm going to send this form, which is apply to job only. And then I'm actually going to have this go after workflow started. It's kind of out of order because it doesn't matter when it gets applied to the client. And then you go here, and I'm going to put the client call scripts. And Wendy says, what if you don't use portals? Then you can send, if you need the client to see something, you have to email it to them. Or you can send them a link to that, but you cannot, but there's no pushing things to the portal. It is or it isn't. So if you don't use that functionality, which is the beauty of Dubsado, if you don't use the functionality, it doesn't hurt the process. It doesn't hurt the client experience. It just enhances the client experience. It's like using bookkeeping. It might not make sense for your business. It's there, and it's great if it makes sense for your business, but if it doesn't, it's not like you're not using Dubsado to its fullest. Because you're still able to send clients information. You can keep track of all the forms that you're sending them back and forth. And it's a great tool just to kind of keep you on track using the workflows. So I hope that answers your question, Wendy. And then, so if I was going to use, send the proposal through the system, through this workflow exactly, I would have a pause workflow here. Now, Jesse asks if you want it to, if you can unpause. You cannot unpause. If you need something to happen before you want the workflow to stop for right now, but you don't want to manually go back in and unpause it, you can use the hold. You hold actions until. You can have it hold for a couple days, a couple weeks. You can also have it hold until the job start date. So if there's no job start date ever applied, then it doesn't move forward. If you wanted to wait until the questionnaire, for example, if you're using that client call script, you have to make sure that you log out of Dubsado to use the client call script for it to log the submission of all that information, even though the client's not seeing it. But if you wanted to wait until this client call script is complete before the next thing happens, you can use this hold. And then once that happens, it unpauses the workflow. Does that make sense, Jesse? And I thought it was Jesse, right? Yeah, Jesse. So Jesse had asked about the pause. Pausing means that you hold it. So you can't do anything, like it won't move forward until you physically unpause it. Okay, but the hold allows it to put it in place and just kind of stop the workflow until the next thing happens. So if you wanted to make this all one long workflow, which you can have a hold actions until invoice is paid in full, for example. Okay. And if you wanted to make sure that you had something happen after they made a first payment, because maybe a client has like $1,000 invoice and they're only paying 20% to get started, but you have that payment schedule. So I have a new payment schedule, and you want to make sure that nothing happens until the first payment is made. Then you would say after scheduled payment is completed, and then you would pick the scheduled payment, which is why it's important to have those payment schedules, not just for proposals or for organization of finances, but also because you can use those in your workflow. Okay? And then if you wanted to keep moving forward, then you would send a proposal and things like that. So that was workflow number one. Workflow number two is going to be the client moving forward with you. Okay, so the client chose service A. our packaging. Now, I want to send a form, which is the proposal that I'm sending to the client. So once I go into a client and I want to apply a workflow to their to them to move forward with the client. So instead of having something happen with a lead capture, I want to go ahead and apply a workflow and have it start immediately after want to send a proposal immediately after they move forward with me. So I'm going to go ahead and send that proposal. And then I'm going to send that canned email I've already written with a link to the proposal. And then the reason why you want to send a proposal through a workflow is because you can have things happen. Yes, Daniel, you can duplicate a workflow. So you can build out a really fancy workflow and then make a copy of it and then edit it and go to your heart, go crazy on it. So yes, you can definitely duplicate workflows. I'll show you on the previous screen when we go back there. So when you send a proposal to somebody and you want something, you want to send them an email like, hey, thanks for so much for signing a proposal. I'm going to send you the contract next. Or I'm going to have something happen after you send the proposal. So if you're not going to send the proposal, contract, and invoice, you can send the contract separately. And the reason why you want to do it separately in this case is if you want things to happen with the contract. So if you want to make sure that they onboard after they get the contract, you have to send the contract separately. Even if the proposal, contract, and invoice are all one form when you send it to a client and you say, well, I want something to happen after the client signs the contract. For example, if you don't take online payments and you want to check before you move forward, but you're okay onboarding them once they sign the contract. So I'll show you how to make the contract not connected to the proposal in just a second. And then Jesse says, if there's a form being sent through the workflow, does it need to be added manually to the lead in the form section and then apply to the workflow after? What if there are two forms? You are calling out the template that you have built in Dubsado in the template section in these forms. So the templates that are already built are the ones being sent to this workflow, and they will be added as such. So if you have, for example, if you're sending a couple different proposals for a couple different options, the workflow is only going to send the proposal that is a template that was already built in Dubsado in the template section or on the fly, and then send that. So if you have two forms that are named exactly the same thing, it will be because the one that it's sending is the one that the workflow actually applies to the client's dashboard and sends that. Okay, so I'll show you that. Okay, so basically I want to send the contract after the proposal is sent. You can also send you can totally bypass the proposal and just send a contract, because you can just ignore this after form is completed. You can do it after workflow is started, just send the contract. And now you can also create an invoice, which is one of the cool things about Dubsado, is that you can create an invoice. And what you can do is 0 days after workflow started, you can pick the package that you've already created. So you've already created your package, and then you've already picked your payment schedule. So then you can send an email with your invoice. So it has the invoice link here, and then you can say, here is some information. Okay, so you can send an invoice directly in the workflow now, which is super cool. So if you want to send somebody an invoice after filling out a lead capture because you don't want to deal with the proposal, they don't need to sign a contract, they can just get an invoice immediately that you've built in the workflow. So it will apply the package or packages that you've decided, and it can move forward. Other things that you can do, you can change lead status. So those workflow, the leads that you have over here, these statuses, so if you have different funnels that you want to keep track of your clients in, or for example, if you're a staffing agency and you have clients that are paying clients and then staff that you're trying to place, then you can move them through the lead capture as they hit different points in the workflow. So I answered Jesse. Christine asks, is there a way to preview the canned emails before they send? What I would do if you want to make sure that something looks good before you actually send it out, then I would say you would add a to-do to say smart field, client first name, check, next, email and workflow, and be sure send. If so, mark complete, right? And then I'm going to send the next piece, which is going to be send an email. So what you're going to do is that when you have the workflow applied to the client, it'll create that to do when it hits that point in the workflow, and then it'll say, does the next email look okay? You say yes, and then you'll hit to do complete, and then it'll send out that email. And so if Carolina asks, if you have a workflow done, can you go into it during a pause and edit the email that is being included in the package and invoice? Yes. So when you get workflows on a client, a couple things before we start to wrap up. So I'm going to create a new lead. And Pippa is call scheduled. So I'm going to get into the client. So whenever you create a workflow, a lead capture will actually create a lead. So that's the really cool thing about lead captures is they create a lead, and they will apply a workflow automatically. But say they're already in process and you want to work with them now and you're ready to move forward with them, you can actually apply a workflow. You can apply a workflow, and then you can also pause it immediately after applying it, because Dubsado takes a minute to send things, which can be annoying. And it can also be amazing because now you can go in here and you can edit those emails ahead of time, right? You can also pause it. You can unpause it at any time. You can also make changes here. And then the cool thing is I had a form attached to this workflow, this pick your package proposal. It became a form on here. So if you're using proofing, for example, you would go in here and you can actually, because the form's already applied to the client, you can go in and edit it at any point in the process and then send it to them. So that's the really cool thing, is that you can have all of your forms already laid out in the client, and they get sent individually through the workflow, or not sent at all because you are applying them through different points in the workflow. Does that make sense? So let's see, like for example, if you have other workflows. I know some of these are pretty old. So as you can see, it will add new forms each time you add workflows. Any questions on workflow actions, things like that? Allison said, I tried to send a reminder email 2 days in advance for a meeting with the bride, and the date was the date I sent the email. How do I input reminder dates for meetings before and after the event based on when that's on the calendar? What I would create is a second workflow, which is meeting workflow. And then you would do all of this after applying to workflow. So you would send reminders and to-dos after applying to workflow, after workflow started, and you would apply that immediately after you've scheduled a meeting, or you can also just apply the workflow and then change the date. So if I have a workflow that has a bunch of date specific things, like I want something to happen 2 days after this, 2 days after that, the first one is 0 days after the workflow started. And then the next one can be 2 days, 3 days after previous action complete. Right, so then once you apply the workflow, you can change the date of the initial piece. So I'm going in here, and now I know that Pippa wants to meet next week. So I'm going to go in here in workflows, meeting workflow. I'm going to apply it. I'm going to pause it for a second. And then I'm going to have it go on fixed. And I want it to start on Thursday or Friday at 11 o'clock because that's when I'm meeting them. And then all those workflow pieces afterwards will happen in succession. If that makes sense, Allison. So Susanna asked, if you make edits in an item in a workflow that is applied to a lead, does it change for all the leads that will have the workflow applied to them, or the ones that you made the edit in? It's just in the one that you made the edit in. It won't affect the workflow for any other clients. If you completely mess up and you have all these changes, you can go ahead and stop the current workflow, fix the templated workflow in Dubsado, and then reapply it. And then, so for example, if I have one that is, it's like if somebody's halfway through the process. Of course, it doesn't have anything that I want to do. Okay, so for example, I'm working with this client and I messed up the workflow, so I want to start again. I can actually remove these. And then I can edit this after workflow started. And then unpause it and then let it do its thing. And then Christine asked, what were the workflow actions that changed? So the workflow actions that changed where now you can have a activate portal and deactivate portal, and then the create invoice, send primary invoice are all new actions. So sending the primary invoice is like if you have a bunch of changes after a proposal, you can send those. You can hold actions until it was already there, but the activate and deactivate portal, I think Christine, when we were doing our intensive, was right when they added these pieces. So I think that's probably why you feel like you've already seen some of this, is because we've already kind of gone over it real time in the intensive. That makes sense. And then let's see, Jesse, is it possible to do something similar to this, but building a workflow with examples for business owners in a specific field, photography planners, etc.? So I have actually workflow flowcharts that are built on, that are already created in my store. We're getting started to get close to time, so building them out one by one would be a little difficult, Jesse, but I'm happy to do some other mini videos. I do videos on my website in my business strategy blog. So if you have ideas of videos that you'd like to see, go ahead and email me at hello@jenred.com. If you wanted to, I emailed myself. If there's some videos that you'd like to see on my website. Okay. Christine, did I answer your question? Anybody else have a question that I missed? So as you can see, we can go on for hours about workflows. I wanted to show you some of the pieces that you need to have in place before you build workflows. And making sure that you understand that the workflow is kind of like the last piece of the puzzle, but it's super important to kind of be really clear about what you're trying to do and what you want to accomplish in Dubsado. As Christine knows, we can go on for hours about different techniques and doing things in a certain order in Dubsado, in workflows, but I think that just understanding these cool new features is super important, but also just kind of best practices. Oh yes, before I think Wendy had asked another question about, so yes, let's talk about those really quick. So there are two ways that you can apply a workflow in the workflow in Dubsado lead captures. You can apply a workflow to any, to the lead capture itself. So as soon as you hit submit, the client will automatically get that workflow started. If you have, like we talked about with Sarah, if you have different session types and you want them to get specific information on the inquiry, if you have more than one inquiry workflow and you have one lead capture that you're trying to work with, this is where you can use workflows in different inquiry workflows. So for example, you have one person who's interested in full planning. So you have the full planning workflow, full planning inquiry workflow applied. You can have day of planning here. And then if there's someone who doesn't know what they want, you can just send them an email. Hey, noticed that you didn't, you have a workflow that sends an email. It says, I'm not sure what I want. I know you're not sure what you want. Let's get on a call so we can talk about your needs and all of that. So when someone fills in a lead capture, if you have a workflow building block, which is this element here, which is the workflow, which I added here, it creates that drop down. And then you apply the workflow. If you do a workflow building block, you don't really need to put a default workflow here, because as long as this is required, they're kind of have to choose their own adventure. They have to choose which piece they want to go into. Okay. So what happens is I'm going to go ahead and show you what that looks like. So lead captures can work two ways. You can embed them in your website, or you can direct link them. So if you want to create a landing squeeze page, you can just use this direct link here. Okay, and so somebody can fill it out. They don't have to be embedded in your website. So if you're really new and you are just starting out, you can build a lead capture and then use that as your landing page. Or if you have something to sell, if you have a training that you want to do, you can just create a lead capture and do all that fun stuff in a workflow. So what happens is, let's see. This one maps to the job date. And then here I have what service are you interested in. Okay. I have that one redirecting to itself because it's for a bridal show. So they can just have it on their tablet and just have it recycle each time. Okay, so this defaults it to Kate Middleton because that's the person who's mapped to this email address. But if you look here, the workflow that was applied was that full planning workflow. So the lead was created and the workflow was automatically applied. And it takes about a few minutes for the emails to actually go out. So always kind of, be patient with Dubsado. And sometimes it's like watching paint dry or water boil, but trust that it's going to happen. Lori, I will answer your question about applying workflows, but why they're not happening. But did you see the process of applying the workflow? Does that make sense? Okay, good. All right. And then, so Unless there's any other questions, we can go on to the rest of the evening. We have just about 7 minutes left. Okay. So that was a lot to wrap your mind around. You do have the video recording afterwards. So the reason why I also wanted to talk about this was not just because of the workflows. I love doing systems. I love doing training. I love doing, Susanna says you're not hearing me. I think everyone can hear me. If you can't, go ahead and chat really quick. Can we have a check-in? Okay, Debbie can hear me. So it might be you, Susanna. Not sure what's happening. Okay, Carolina. Can hear me. So, okay, we are talking a little bit about what I like to talk about in general, which is systems and creating systems and dealing with software and just making your business as fancy as possible. Megan, thank you so much for being here. Let's talk about things. We've broken down workflows and how they all work, but what really happens is that it's not just Dubsado in your business. There are so many other programs that you're going to need to use. There's other systems that you need to have in place. There's different ways technology is going to improve your business, and sometimes it gets overwhelming, which is why you're here at 8:30, 9:30 at night, trying to learn all you can about workflows because there's not enough hours in the day. So I like to break this down for people and make it as easy as possible to wrap your mind around technology and just really get into the systems and make them easy to understand. So I want to know if this sounds like you. Do you feel overwhelmed with updates from your favorite systems? Whenever Dubsado says they release new updates, are you excited or are you overwhelmed because you're not sure exactly what it means for your business, but you'd sure like to see those changes? And would you like to know how, like step-by-step guides on the how in systems, like how to do step A, how to do step B? Jesse talking about how to do for photographers and planners, step-by-step on how to build that workflow and make it perfect for your business. Do you always need fresh ideas on how to improve your systems? Do you always feel a little bit behind the curve trying to deal with your clients? Also, do you always need up-to-date system tutorials? Are you just feeling like you figured it out a year ago and you're not there yet again? That's where you would see, that's where tutorials come in. And the next would be, do you have a team and you just want them to learn things and you don't have time to train them anymore? This is why I've created Your Business Ecosystem. It is a subscription box for your inbox, which is a weekly email with tech tips, system breakdown, step-by-step trainings on how to build your workflow exactly, the theories behind different things like marketing, systems integration, team building, inbox management, all the fun stuff. It's not just software, but strategy, implementation, and just like real life hows. You hear a lot about the whys and the whats, but not a lot about the how. I also have free masterclasses and trainings, just like you had tonight. I have those just for my group. And I also have hot seat system consults. So if you want to have a one-on-one session with me that gets shared with Your Business Ecosystem, where we talk about your systems and things that you can take away that day to really figure out how your systems need to be improved, how you can make changes immediately, and how to get those last pieces of your technology together. That's what's included in the Your Business Ecosystem. And we cover lead management, client management, project management, team management, financial management, inbox management, marketing management, and time management, which are all important things as business owners, especially as you are growing your business, as you're building teams, really getting a hold of all your systems, because all 8 pieces are your systems. Let's be real. So let's talk about Your Business Ecosystem. If you're ready to rock your systems, I have a Facebook group that is already in place. So if you wanted to join us there, this is a free Facebook group. I am jumping in there tomorrow to introduce myself and talk about all the cool things that we can do with our systems. So if you wanted to join us there, that is the link to get into the Facebook group. And it's a lot of fun. We ask a lot of questions, and I'm in there answering questions all day long. So I'm actually there more than I'm in the Dubsado group and some of the other groups, which is kind of amazing if you know me. So I love to answer questions and be real and be as much value as possible. If you're interested in getting the email subscription, which is every Sunday you get a new email with tech tips, system tips, marketing tips, anything that you would need to grow your business to get those systems in order and really get organized, that is the monthly subscription. It's $19.99 a month. And I am now offering a 1-year subscription, which means you get 50% off the list price of the subscription. You get 52 weeks of emails in your inbox on tech tips, updated weekly. I do not do this months in advance. I am working on that email until Sunday morning. I will tell you, because there's always new things to add, and the emails get longer and longer. So you will not get, you know, a week or two of cool stuff and then a lot of recycled content. It's new emails every single week. And right now, the bonus is that you get 50% off your entire order in my DIY store, which has those workflow flow charts, canned emails that you can start with your business. Those are all in my DIY store. And the bonus is good until March 5th at midnight. If you are interested in getting the Your Business Ecosystem, here is the link. Where did my chat go? Right here. And you got the Facebook group. And the bonus for the people who stuck around, I'm so excited, is here, which is the online registration with Dubsado. That is a video tutorial that also shows the back end of my website a little bit on my Dubsado system. Where is my chat? And it is a YouTube video that shows you exactly how it works and how I use online registration and Dubsado workflows. So does anyone have any other questions? I know you guys hung on. I'm so excited that you all hung on to the very end. Lori, I will email you. I know you asked that question about your workflows. Do you follow the steps on how to set up the workflows in Dubsado on the lead capture? Are you still here, Lori? Okay. Awesome. Great, Lori. I'm glad we answered your question. So thank you all so much for coming and hanging out to the end. You guys are rock stars. I hope that you had a great time. I hope that you learned a lot and you had fun in the process. So if you have any other questions, feel free to ask. And chat, I have one more question. Madeline, you said use this so much for helpful. That's what happens when you have way too many screens. Got Dubsado up and setting workflows for the first time before my launch next week. Fingers crossed. I feel so much better about it. Thank you, Celeste, for hanging out today too. Madeline, what are you launching this week? Next week? Ooh, online event planning services. That is awesome. I would love to see what that looks like when you're done. If you want to email it to me. Easter party plan in a box and concierge. That would be so awesome. I wish I had enough friends to actually invite over for Easter, but we are having a party for my daughter for her christening in a couple weeks. So I would love to see what that looks like. Yeah, I know she's almost 9 months. Please don't tell anyone that we waited that long. But I couldn't get her godparents up to Boston fast enough. So I would love to know hosting parties for like open houses. I would love to see how hosting parties for open houses and like, you know, holiday time drop-ins, what that would look like. That would be awesome to see. Exactly, open house at home. So like if you want to just invite your neighbors around and just have like a couple hours open where you're serving coffee and cookies, which is very popular where we live. Awesome. I would love to see that. Do I see like somebody has their hand raised and I feel like I have. Hi, Carolina. Okay, I want to make sure. I know technology is not working with me as well as I like tonight. So yes, we are still at the poll ended up at about meh. I could do better, and eek, they're kind of overwhelming, but we still have one person who said I got them down. Did anybody feel like they improved their scale of 1 to 5 after our workflow? Awesome. Where are you at now, Carolina? 4. Awesome. So you were at a 5 to start with. Is that better? Okay. Oh, you're at a 3. So you feel worse? Okay, too. Good. I'm like, don't feel worse after meeting with us. Madeline, you said you're definitely improved. I'm so excited. You guys are awesome. You guys are rock stars. I'm so happy that you all joined me tonight. I know it's late. Well, it's late for me. I'm sure it's still early where you are, or not too late. But thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. And don't forget to join us in the Facebook group if you're not ready for the Your Business Ecosystem subscription. I think it'll be a lot of fun, and I'm happy to answer questions there and really get us all involved. Stephanie, thank you so much for coming. You are awesome. You are a rock star. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off for the night, but thank you guys so much. You guys are awesome. I love you all, and don't forget to join the group so we can have more fun like that. Talk to you all soon, okay?